Have you ever wondered what caused the housing crisis in 2024? It's a question that has been on many people's minds, stirring both curiosity and concern. It's a question that tells the story of an economic nightmare shaking the foundations of middle-class American life. A question that demands answers, not as simple as it may seem, filled with complexities, distortions, and contradictions. Stay with us as we unravel the events that led to this economic debacle. To understand the housing collapse, we need to first look back at the housing market in 2023. Picture a bustling marketplace, but instead of fruits and vegetables, there are houses. Yes, houses. Not just any houses, but houses with hefty price tags. It was the year 2023, and the housing market was on fire, prices reaching new heights. It was a seller's market where homeowners and real estate investors were making money, and buyers were scratching their heads wondering how to get a piece of the pie. You see, demand was through the roof. People were scrambling to secure a house, any house, be it out of fear of missing out on opportunities or spurred by historically low interest rates. The rush to buy was palpable. The American dream of homeownership was alive and well, but turning into an expensive affair. And then there were the interest rates. The interest rates. They were so low that they were practically begging people to borrow, and borrow they did. Mortgages were being handed out like candy at a parade, and debt was piling up. It was a tempting offer indeed. Who wouldn't want to lock in a low interest rate for the next 30 years? But here's the thing about markets. They're driven by supply and demand. And in 2023, demand was high, and supply couldn't keep up. This imbalance led to rapid price increases, bidding wars, and a frenzy in the housing market that likened it more to a casino than a marketplace. It was a wild ride, and for a moment, it seemed like the good times would never end. The housing market was booming, people were making money, and the future looked bright. But as they say, what goes up must come down. Rising prices, high demand, and cheap credit inflated the market to the edge of a cliff. We didn't know the bubble was about to burst. By early 2024, it became apparent that a perfect storm was brewing in the housing market. Imagine a cauldron filled with economic factors contributing to increasing unrest. First, there were rising interest rates. For years, homeowners and potential buyers had been enjoying the warm glow of low rates. It was a time when getting a mortgage or refinancing a home seemed relatively easy, and the dream of homeownership appeared within reach for many. But as the calendar turned to 2024, things began to change. Rates started to rise, and the dream began to slip further away. Then came the tightening of credit conditions. Perhaps banks and lenders, haunted by ghosts of past financial crises, began to tighten their belts. What was once easy money flowing freely began to dry up. Suddenly, getting credit wasn't just a matter of having a good credit score. Now, more hurdles had to be overcome, stricter criteria met, and more proof of income and assets provided. The dream of homeownership was now turning into a daunting struggle. Let's not forget the overvaluation of properties. In the years leading up to 2024, home prices were on a seemingly unstoppable upward trend. Homes once considered affordable were now out of reach for many middle-class Americans. This overvaluation created a bubble, and as we all know, bubbles have to burst. And here we are, rising interest rates, tightening credit conditions, and overvalued properties. Each of these factors could cause a hiccup in the housing market on its own, but together they created a perfect storm. As this storm intensified, it cast a dark shadow over the housing market. Both homeowners and potential buyers could feel the chill in the air. They could sense the winds of change. They knew something was coming, and they were right. The stage was set for a downturn unlike anything we had seen before. By the middle of 2024, the housing market plummeted rapidly. It was a swift and merciless fall, a landslide that caught many unprepared. What was once a rapidly growing real estate sector was now a shadow of its former self. Prices that were once sky-high were now plummeting faster than a lead balloon. It was as if the ground had crumbled beneath the feet of homeowners nationwide. This was not just a decrease in prices. This was a full-fledged freefall. Homes that were once valued at $500,000 were now struggling to fetch a third of that price. The market was saturated with properties, but there were very few buyers. As prices dropped, the specter of foreclosure loomed larger. Once eager lenders and creditors, the banks and lenders had tightened their wallets. Many middle-class Americans who had invested their life savings into what they once deemed secure now found themselves in an indefensible situation. They owed more on their homes than they were worth. They were underwater, trapped in a financial quagmire with no easy way out. Foreclosures were more than just numbers on a page. They were a bitter reality for thousands of families. The for sale signs hung in neighborhoods weren't just markers of current properties on the market. They were sharp reminders of shattered dreams and disrupted lives. Middle-class Americans, the backbone of the nation, took the hardest hit. They had played by the rules, worked hard, and saved diligently. They had purchased homes not as speculative investments, but as places where they could raise their families, build their futures. But now those homes had become their greatest liabilities. The impact went beyond financial. It was psychological and emotional. The stress of potentially losing one's home, the uncertainty of the future, the struggle to make ends meet, it was a burden to bear. The once vibrant and promising American dream now seemed like a nightmare. The aftermath of the housing crash was devastating. As the year drew to a close, the ripple effects of the housing market collapse were felt and experienced not just by middle-class Americans nationwide, but within them. Once lively neighborhoods filled with the promise of the American dream began to echo a different narrative. Homeowners found themselves grappling with mortgages they could no longer afford, marking the onset of financial struggles. The dream of homeownership, once a cornerstone of middle-class life, had turned into a nightmare. Families were forced to make tough decisions, balancing mortgage payments against necessities like food and healthcare. The job market took a hit as well. Alongside real estate and related sectors, the construction industry experienced a sharp decline in employment. Thousands of workers were left unemployed. The demand for their skills suddenly diminished. The ripple effect spread to local businesses that relied on these workers as customers, from cafes to dry cleaners. Yet the impact of the 2024 housing crisis was not immediate. It had long-term effects on the economy as well. Middle-class American generations had relied on their homes as an investment, a nest egg for retirement. However, as home values plummeted rapidly, many saw their life savings vanish overnight. The ripple effect was felt in consumer confidence and spending, leading to a slowdown in economic growth. Let's not forget the psychological impact. The 2024 housing crisis shook the confidence of middle-class Americans in the stability of their financial futures. The dream of homeownership gave way to fear and uncertainty. Escaping this change would likely take years, if not decades. Its impact was wide-ranging and long-lasting. The 2024 housing crisis was more than just a market correction or a financial hiccup. It was a seismic shift that affected every aspect of middle-class life, from finances to job prospects to future expectations. And its tangible and intangible effects will be felt in the years to come. Every crisis holds lessons to be learned. The 2024 housing crash, a sobering chapter in our nation's history, is no exception. Its aftershocks reverberated through our communities and our homes, but they also provided us with a wealth of wisdom. One of the most glaring lessons learned is the dangers of speculation. The housing market is not a casino, and treating it as such can lead to destructive outcomes. Speculation fueled by unchecked prices turned homeownership into an unattainable dream for many middle-class Americans. It's a stark reminder that when we play fast and loose with the housing market, it's not just numbers on a page that are affected, but real people with real homes and real lives. We've also come to recognize the critical importance of financial literacy. Understanding mortgages, interest rates, and the fundamentals of the housing market is not just a luxury but a necessity. If more people could grasp these concepts firmly, perhaps the crash could have been mitigated, if not entirely prevented. It's a call to action for all of us to be more educated, to ask questions, and demand answers about our financial situations. Lastly, this crash underscored the need for better regulation in the housing market. The unchecked rise in housing prices, predatory lending practices, the absence of safeguards, all these factors contributed to the crisis we experienced. It's a call for policymakers to enact meaningful reforms to protect consumers and ensure that the dream of homeownership is attainable for all Americans. If history has taught us anything, it's that we need to learn from our past mistakes. Let's take these lessons seriously. Let's grow from this experience. And let's work together to build a future where housing crashes like the one in 2024 are a thing of the past. The road to recovery has begun despite the devastation. The aftermath of the 2024 housing crisis was a wake-up call. It was a stark reminder of the delicate balance that holds our economy together. But it was also the beginning of a journey towards resilience, recovery, and growth in the face of challenges. The government stepped in, implementing a series of measures to revitalize the housing market. A new era of regulation focusing on tighter controls on mortgage loans to prevent reckless and predatory practices that contributed to the collapse was initiated. The government also launched stimulus packages aimed at revitalizing the economy and making homeownership more accessible to middle-class Americans. But the road to recovery wasn't just about significant and comprehensive changes. It also involved changes in everyday practices. Lending institutions carefully reviewed their policies and made necessary changes to encourage responsible lending. They began prioritizing financial stability over quick profits, understanding that a healthy economy benefits everyone in the long run. In addition to institutional changes, there was a renewed emphasis on financial education. It became evident that understanding mortgages, interest rates, and the fundamentals of the housing market was not just for bankers and brokers, but essential knowledge for every American. Schools, community centers, and online platforms began offering courses on financial literacy, empowering individuals to make informed decisions about their money. This journey wasn't easy. It required hard work, sacrifice, and a willingness to learn from past mistakes. But every step, every change, every lesson learned was a step towards a more stable and sustainable future. A future where homeownership is not just for a privileged few, but accessible to all Americans. The road to recovery was long, but not impossible. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of collective action, and the enduring belief in the American dream. While the scars of the 2024 housing crisis may still be visible, they are also a reminder of our capacity for healing, growth, and progress stronger than before. In this journey, we learned that while economic crises like the one in 2024 can be devastating, they are not insurmountable. Let's summarize the key points we discussed. We started with a burning question: why did the housing market collapse in 2024? We unraveled the layers of this complex issue, pointing to the combination of factors: the domino effect of rising interest rates, an overheated market, and risky lending practices. We also saw how a sudden drop in consumer confidence can send shockwaves throughout the entire economy. Next, we explored the effects of the crash. It was not just a story of numbers and economic indicators, but a human story, a middle-class American nightmare. Thousands of families lost their homes, and many more struggled with financial insecurity. The hardest hit were those who had thought they had just gotten their share of the American dream months ago. But from this crisis, we also gleaned valuable lessons. We realized the importance of financial literacy and being aware of market trends. We saw how critical it is to understand the terms of our mortgages and the associated risk. We recognized the need for responsible lending practices and consumer protection regulations. Then we looked towards the path of recovery. It wasn't a quick or easy journey, but it showed us how communities come together, individuals take steps to rebuild their lives, and policy changes are implemented to prevent similar crises in the future. Ultimately, the 2024 housing crisis was a harsh lesson in the complexities of the economy and the cyclical nature of financial markets. But it also reminded us of the strength of the human spirit and our ability to overcome challenges. As we move forward, let's remember these lessons. Let's continue to educate ourselves on financial matters and stay informed about the state of the economy. Let's be careful in the decisions we make, understanding the risks and rewards. And let's never forget that even in the face of economic downturns, knowledge and preparation can help us navigate through challenges. Remember, understanding our past helps shape our future. Stay informed, stay prepared. Thank you for watching WealthStream 101. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave us a like below this video.